You know what silence sounds like when your entire world is about to collapse? It's not peaceful. It's the kind of quiet that presses against your eardrums like deep water, making everything feel slow and heavy. That's the sound I heard standing in the marble lobby of Castellano Industries at 7 in the morning, watching my reflection in the polished floor, wondering how I'd become invisible in my own life. My name is Victoria. I'm 42 years old. I have a spine that aches when I stand too long in heels. And for the past 18 years, I've been the reason a billion-dollar pharmaceutical empire didn't crumble into dust. But nobody writes that part down. Nobody puts my name on the quarterly reports. I'm just the woman behind the curtain, pulling the levers while everyone applauds the man taking bows. I'm not telling you this story because I want sympathy. I'm telling you this because sometimes you have to watch everything burn before you realize you were the one holding the matches all along. But before I explain how I dismantled a dynasty with nothing but a fountain pen and a filing cabinet full of forgotten paperwork, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible? Have you ever given everything to something only to watch someone else claim the credit? If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. Good. Now let's go back to the beginning. Back to when I still believed loyalty meant something. Castellano Industries wasn't always the pharmaceutical giant you see in those glossy magazine spreads. 18 years ago, it was a failing research facility housed in a converted textile factory on the edge of Atlanta. The place smelled like mold and broken dreams, and the equipment was so outdated, you'd think we were trying to cure diseases with alchemy instead of science. That was before the breakthrough, before the patent, before everything changed. I was 24 then. Fresh out of graduate school, with a degree in biochemical engineering and enough student debt to buy a small island. I was hired as a junior research analyst by Marcus Castellano, the owner. Marcus was different back then, or maybe I just wanted to believe he was. He had this intensity about him, this vision. He'd pace the lab at midnight, talking about saving lives, about making medicine accessible, about changing the world. I believed him. God help me, I believed every word. When the FDA shut us down for 6 months because our containment protocols were a disaster, I was the one who stayed. While everyone else scattered like roaches when the lights come on, I spent those months sleeping on a cot in the storage room, rebuilding our entire safety infrastructure from the ground up. I rewrote the standard operating procedures. I personally calibrated every piece of equipment. I created the quality control systems that would later become the foundation of our entire operation. When we reopened, we were flawless. When the inspectors came back, they couldn't find a single violation. That's when the contracts started coming in. First, the hospital networks wanted to partner with us. Then the insurance companies. Then the government health programs that needed a reliable source for critical medications. I built that reputation. Not with Marcus's money, though he provided the capital, barely. I built it with 18-hour days, missed family gatherings, and a slowly dying relationship with a man who eventually left because I was never home. I know every protocol in our production facility. I know which centrifuge has a slight wobble in the 3rd cycle and needs to be monitored. I know the names of the quality control technicians' children. I'm not just an employee. I'm the foundation of this entire structure. So when I walked into the executive boardroom that morning and saw the look on Marcus's face, the smug satisfaction in his eyes, I knew something terrible was coming. The air conditioning was blasting, making the room feel like a morgue. I pulled my cardigan tighter around my shoulders. "Victoria, come in, Marcus boomed, gesturing to a chair. His voice had that false warmth he used when he was about to deliver bad news, wrapped in corporate speak. "Have a seat. We have some exciting developments to discuss." I sat down slowly, my leather portfolio clutched in my hands. Around the table were faces I recognized. Jennifer from legal, Robert from finance, and someone I didn't know. A young man, maybe 28, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than my car payment. He had that look about him, that polished emptiness of someone who'd never actually built anything, but was very good at talking about building things. "Victoria," Marcus continued, leaning back in his chair, "I'd like you to meet my nephew, Cameron Castellano. He just completed his MBA from Wharton, top of his class, and he's going to be joining us in a leadership capacity." Cameron gave me a smile that didn't reach his eyes. It was the kind of smile you give to service staff, polite but dismissive. "Pleasure to meet you, Victoria. Uncle Marcus has told me so much about the operation here. It's impressive, really impressive for a legacy system." Legacy system. That's what he called 18 years of meticulous work. Like I was outdated equipment that needed replacing. "Cameron is going to be taking over as Chief Operating Officer," Marcus announced. The words hit me like a physical blow. We need fresh perspectives, new strategies. The pharmaceutical landscape is changing rapidly, and Cameron brings innovative thinking to the table. I felt my hands go numb. "COO? That's my role, Marcus." "Well, not officially," Marcus said, and I could hear the escape hatch in his voice. "You've been acting director of operations, but we've never formalized the C-suite position. Cameron is going to take the reins, and you, Victoria, you're going to transition into a new role that better utilizes your historical knowledge." Historical knowledge? Like I was a museum exhibit. "What role?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Jennifer from legal slid a folder across the table. "Senior Compliance Advisor and Archives Director. You'll be responsible for maintaining our documentation, ensuring our historical records are pristine, and helping Cameron understand the systems you've built. It's a vital function." Archives Director. They were putting me in a closet with filing cabinets while this child played executive. "You want me to file papers?" I said, the anger starting to bubble up through the shock. "It's not just filing," Cameron interjected, his tone condescending in that way people use when they're explaining things to someone they consider simple. "Documentation and institutional memory are crucial. We need to capture all that tribal knowledge you have, get it properly systematized so we can scale. Can't have everything locked in one person's head, right? That's inefficient. Tribal knowledge. Corporate speak for everything you learned through suffering that we want to steal so we can replace you." I looked at Marcus. 18 years. I'd missed my sister's wedding because we had a contamination scare in batch 447, and I spent 3 days in hazmat gear tracking down the source. I'd worked through my mother's funeral because we had a deadline for a government contract. I'd sacrificed relationships, health, sleep, everything for this company. And now I was being archived. "I see," I said quietly. Something inside me cracked. A clean break, like a bone snapping in the cold. Marcus mistook my quiet for acceptance. "I knew you'd understand, Victoria. You're a team player. Always have been. This is what's best for the company's growth. Cameron brings expertise in market expansion, digital transformation, all the things we need to compete globally." "When does this transition take effect?" I asked. "Immediately," Cameron said, checking his phone like this conversation was boring him. "I'll need you to brief me on your daily operations. Keep it high level, though. Bullet points. I'm meeting with the board next week and need to present our optimization strategy." Optimization strategy? Translation: how to cut costs and maximize profits while pretending to care about the mission. I stood up. Everyone looked at me expectantly. "I'll start gathering the documentation," I said. Marcus's face broke into a relieved smile. "Excellent. I knew we could count on you. You know, Victoria, this could actually be a blessing in disguise. Less stress, more regular hours. You've been carrying too much for too long." I nodded, picked up my portfolio, and walked out of that boardroom with my head high and my heart splintering into 1,000 pieces. But I didn't go to my office. I went to the archives. The archives at Castellano Industries weren't some dusty basement corner. They were a climate-controlled vault on the third floor, housing every piece of documentation from the company's founding to present day. Every patent filing, every regulatory submission, every contract, every permit. Marcus had told me years ago to organize this mess eventually, but he'd never followed up because, like most executives, he didn't understand that boring paperwork is what keeps billion-dollar companies from imploding. I swiped my access card. The heavy door clicked open. Inside, rows of filing cabinets and shelving units stretched out under fluorescent lights. It was quiet here, peaceful in a way the rest of the building never was. I pulled out the first drawer marked FDA Submissions 2008 to 2010. If they wanted me to be the archives director, I was going to be the best damn archives director in corporate history. I was going to read every single page, and I was going to find exactly what was buried in this paper fortress. Because here's something I'd learned in 18 years. Powerful men build empires on foundations they don't understand. They trust that the details are being handled by someone else, someone they consider beneath their notice. Marcus had built Castellano Industries on my expertise, my certifications, my reputation with regulators. My name was on everything that mattered. And he just handed me unlimited time to read it all. I found the first piece of the puzzle 3 hours later, buried in a contract amendment from 2011. It was for our partnership with Meridian Health Systems, the largest hospital network in the Southeast. The contract had very specific language about continuity of qualified oversight. I read it twice, then 3 times, feeling my pulse quicken. The contracted party guarantees that all production oversight and quality assurance protocols shall be maintained by a certified pharmaceutical operations director, with minimum 15 years of specialized experience in FDA-regulated manufacturing environments. Specifically, Dr. Victoria Chen, project director, whose expertise and direct oversight formed the basis of Meridian Health Systems' due diligence and approval of this partnership. Victoria Chen, that was me. I'd completed my doctorate 4 years into working here, studying at night while running the facility during the day. The contract explicitly named me as the guarantee of quality, not the company, me personally. And there was more. Any change in key personnel, specifically the replacement or reassignment of Dr. Victoria Chen from direct operational oversight, constitutes a material change requiring 90-day advance notice and reevaluation of partnership terms, with option for immediate termination without penalty to Meridian Health Systems. I sat back in my chair, the document trembling slightly in my hands. If I was removed from operations, Meridian could walk away from a $40 million annual contract. I pulled another file, then another. The government contract for supplying medications to federal health programs had similar language, built around my security clearance and my certification as the responsible party. The research partnership with Emory University explicitly stated that I was the principal investigator on their collaborative projects, parentheses. Contract after contract. My name appeared not as some interchangeable employee, but as the specific, named foundation of their trust. Strong, Marcus had built his empire on my credentials. He'd sold my expertise, my reputation, my personal guarantee to every major client we had. And he genuinely didn't understand that in this industry, trust isn't transferred like ownership of a building. It's attached to the person who knows which contamination protocol prevents lawsuits and which shortcut causes deaths. Strong. I opened my laptop and created a spreadsheet. I titled it Structural Dependencies. Then I started listing every contract, every grant, every partnership that specifically named me as a requirement. By sunset, I had 17 entries. 17 separate agreements that could potentially be voided if I was no longer in my operational role. The total annual value of those contracts, $347 million. Marcus thought he owned the clients because he owned the company. He didn't realize the clients had bought access to me. I looked at my phone. It was past 8 p.m. My stomach was growling, but I wasn't hungry. I felt awake for the first time in years. like I'd been sleepwalking through my own life and had suddenly snapped alert. I couldn't just quit. If I walked away in anger, I'd be burning my own reputation too. Victoria Chen, the woman who abandoned her responsibilities. That's how they'd spin it. I'd never work in this industry again. But I also couldn't stay and watch Cameron dismantle everything I'd built while Marcus collected profits from my name. I needed a third option. I needed to make sure that when this house of cards collapsed, and it would collapse, because Cameron didn't know the difference between a centrifuge and a coffee maker, I would be standing outside with clean hands and a clear conscience. I needed documentation. I needed proof. I needed to build a paper trail so meticulous that when federal regulators came asking questions, they'd have exactly one name to call: Victoria Chen, the person who tried to maintain standards while everyone else chased profit margins. I pulled out my phone and composed a carefully worded email to the FDA's regional compliance officer, someone I'd worked with for years on various audits. Dear Director Matthews, I am writing to formally notify you of a significant personnel change at Castellano Industries. Effective this week, I have been reassigned from Chief Operating Officer to a non-operational advisory role. As I am listed as the responsible party on several FDA registrations and permits for our facility, I wanted to proactively inform your office of this change and request guidance on the appropriate notification protocols to ensure continued compliance. Please advise on the necessary forms and procedures. Respectfully, Dr. Victoria Chen. This was a grenade. Once I sent it, there was no taking it back. The FDA doesn't mess around when it comes to changes in responsible parties at pharmaceutical facilities. They'd launch an investigation immediately, probably send inspectors within the week. But it was also the truth. I was doing exactly what regulations required: notifying the authorities of a material change in operational oversight. I pressed send. Then I gathered my things, locked the archives, and walked out to my car. The parking lot was nearly empty. Through the windows of the production facility, I could see the night shift workers moving through their routines, following the protocols I'd written, maintaining the standards I'd set. Tomorrow, Cameron would probably start changing things. He'd look at our inefficient quality checks and decide we could cut corners. He'd see our temperature logs as bureaucratic waste and try to automate them away. He'd make exactly the kind of mistakes that people with MBAs and no actual experience always make. And I was going to document every single decision. I wasn't going to sabotage anything. I didn't need to. Incompetence is its own sabotage. I just needed to make sure the record was crystal clear about who was in charge when things went wrong. I drove home to my small townhouse, the one I'd barely spent time in over the years. I poured myself a glass of wine, cheap stuff that tasted like regret and liberation mixed together. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Thanks for being professional about the transition. You're the backbone of this company, Victoria. We couldn't do this without your support. I stared at that message for a long time. The backbone. That's what I was. The structural support that nobody sees, but everyone depends on. And they were about to learn what happens when you remove the backbone from a living thing. It doesn't stand up anymore. It collapses. I deleted the message without responding. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. The first crack appeared on Wednesday, just 3 days after Cameron took over. I was in the archives, meticulously scanning documents from 2009, when my phone rang. It was Melissa, the quality control supervisor, someone I'd personally trained 7 years ago. Dr. Chen, she said, her voice tight with stress. We have a problem. I'm not in operations anymore, Melissa. You need to talk to Cameron. I tried. He told me to handle it myself and stop bothering him with minor issues. She sounded close to tears. But this isn't minor. Cameron changed the cleaning validation protocol for production line 3. He said the old method was redundant and expensive, so he cut the testing frequency from daily to weekly. She sounded close to tears. My blood ran cold. He did what? He said it was optimization, but Dr. Chen, Line 3 produces the cardiac medications for the Meridian contract. Daily validation isn't redundant. It's required by the agreement. If we don't catch contamination within 24 hours, an entire batch could be compromised. We're talking about medications that go to ICU patients. I closed my eyes. Did you document his instruction? Yes, he sent an email. Forward it to me. And Melissa, do not deviate from the original protocol without a written exemption from the FDA. I don't care what Cameron says. If he pushes back, tell him the requirement is regulatory, not optional. He's going to be furious. Let him be furious. You want to explain to a federal inspector why you ignored safety protocols, or do you want to show them that you followed proper procedure despite pressure from management? There was a pause. I'll stick to the protocol. Good. Document everything, Melissa. Every conversation, every instruction, every decision. This is how we protect ourselves. After I hung up, I sat there feeling the rage build in my chest like steam pressure. 3 days. He'd lasted 3 days before potentially compromising patient safety to save money on testing supplies. I opened a new document on my computer. I titled it Incident Log Operational Decisions under Cameron Castellano. I recorded the date, time, Melissa's call, and the substance of Cameron's order. Then I printed Melissa's forwarded email and filed it in a new folder I'd created. Evidence of deviation from standard protocols. This was just the beginning. I could feel it. That afternoon, I got another call, this time from Raymond in facilities management. Dr. Chen, I don't know who else to call. Cameron just canceled our preventive maintenance contract with biotech services. Said we were overpaying for unnecessary checkups on equipment that was running fine. I felt my stomach drop. The autoclave maintenance? Yes, ma'am. The autoclaves, the incubators, the environmental monitoring system, all of it. He said if something breaks, we'll fix it then. No point in preventive spending. The autoclaves were what we use to sterilize equipment and destroy biohazardous waste. If an autoclave failed and we didn't catch it immediately, we could have contaminated materials mixing with clean production environments. It was the kind of failure that shut down entire facilities and triggered FDA consent decrees. Raymond, when is the next scheduled maintenance? It was supposed to be Friday, but Cameron already emailed biotech and terminated the contract effective immediately. Forward me that email. And Raymond, document the current operational status of every piece of equipment biotech was maintaining. Timestamps, readings, everything. Create a baseline record. Peace was there. One of my very own questions. I think equipment that doesn't get maintained eventually fails. And when it does, I want a clear record of when and why the maintenance stopped. By Friday, I had 6 more entries. Cameron had strong, outsourced frequency in our clean rooms from hourly to every 6 hours, saving money on monitoring strips. Strong. Eliminated the third-party audit we'd conducted quarterly for the past decade, calling it redundant oversight. Strong. Declined to renew our facility insurance rider that covered contamination events because the premium was unnecessarily high. Strong. Told the validation team to stop conducting equipment requalification studies, saying our equipment was already qualified and didn't need constant rechecking. Strong. Every single decision saved money in the short term. Every single decision also increased risk exponentially. And I documented all of it. Strong. On Friday afternoon, Marcus stopped by the archives. He poked his head in, grinning like he just won a golf tournament. Victoria, how's it going down here? Getting settled into the new role? I looked up from the 2012 validation reports I was scanning. It's educational, Marcus. I'm learning a lot about our contractual obligations. Good, good. Listen, we need you to sign some updated facility registrations for the state board. Just annual renewals. Routine stuff. Cameron's certifications are still pending, so we need your signature as the backup qualified person. He slid a stack of papers across my desk, little yellow tabs marking where I should sign. I picked up the top form. It was an attestation to the state pharmacy board that all production oversight met regulatory standards and that I, as a licensed pharmaceutical director, personally verified the facility's compliance. "Marcus," I said slowly, "I can't sign this." His smile faded. "What? Why not? It's just a formality." "It's not a formality. This form certifies that I have direct operational oversight and personal knowledge of our current compliance status. I don't have operational oversight anymore. Cameron does. He'd need to sign this, or you'd need someone else who's actually in the production facility daily. But your license is still active. You're still an employee. Just sign it, Victoria. Don't make this difficult. If I sign this and we have a compliance issue, I'm the one who goes to jail for false certification. Not Cameron, not you." "Me." His face reddened. "There's not going to be a compliance issue. Stop being paranoid." "Then Cameron should have no problem getting his own certification processed. Or you could reinstate me to operational oversight. But I'm not signing legal documents claiming I'm responsible for processes I no longer control." We stared at each other. I could see him calculating, trying to figure out if I was bluffing. "This is corporate insubordination, Victoria." "No, Marcus, this is liability management. I'm happy to put you in touch with our legal team so they can explain the personal exposure you're asking me to take on." He grabbed the papers off my desk. "Fine, we'll figure it out another way. But you're making things very difficult for people who've been good to you. I'm protecting my professional license and my freedom. If that's difficult, maybe we should reconsider the organizational structure." He left without another word, his footsteps heavy and angry in the hallway. I sat back in my chair, my heart pounding. That was a line crossed. I just directly refused an order from the owner. But I'd also protected myself, because I absolutely knew, that within 6 months, Cameron's cost-cutting and corner-cutting would result in a major incident. And when investigators came looking for who to blame, they'd look for the name on the certifications. I wasn't going to be that name. Not anymore. That evening, I drove out to Stone Mountain, to the walking trail that circles the base. I needed to move, to think, to process what I was doing. My phone buzzed. An email from Director Matthews at the FDA. "Dr. Chen, thank you for your notification regarding personnel changes at Castellano Industries. This represents a significant change to the facility's operational structure. Please be advised that we are scheduling a comprehensive compliance inspection for the week of November 18th. All personnel listed on facility registrations should be prepared for interviews. We will also be reviewing any procedural changes implemented in the past 90 days. Please confirm receipt of this message." November 18th. That was 3 weeks away. I stopped walking. Around me, other hikers moved past, oblivious to the small earthquake happening in my pocket. The FDA was coming. They were going to inspect everything. They were going to interview Cameron about protocols he didn't understand. They were going to ask about the maintenance contracts he'd canceled, the testing he'd reduced, the corners he'd cut. And they were going to find a disaster in the making. I confirmed receipt of the email. Then I forwarded it to Marcus and Cameron with a simple note. "FYI, the FDA has scheduled a comprehensive inspection in 3 weeks, following our operational changes. Please let me know if you need any historical documentation to prepare." I hit send, then put my phone in my pocket and kept walking. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. It looked like fire. It looked like the beginning of something inevitable and unstoppable. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. I wasn't sabotaging Castellano Industries. I was just documenting reality. I was just following the rules. I was just protecting myself. But I knew what was coming. And for the first time in 18 years, I wasn't going to be the one working 100-hour weeks to fix someone else's mistakes. I was going to let them fail on their own merit, with a complete and comprehensive paper trail showing exactly who made which decisions. By the time I got back to my car, I had 4 missed calls from Marcus and 7 text messages from Cameron, each one more frantic than the last. I deleted them all without reading. Then I drove home, poured myself another glass of cheap wine, and started preparing for the most satisfying professional disaster of my life. The weekend passed like a held breath. I spent Saturday organizing my archives, creating a comprehensive index of every document that might be relevant to the upcoming FDA inspection. I wasn't doing this for Marcus or Cameron. I was doing it for myself, building a fortress of documentation that would prove beyond any doubt that I had maintained standards while others had abandoned them. Sunday evening, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was local. Dr. Chen? A woman's voice, professional and crisp. This is Rebecca Sandoval. I'm the Chief Compliance Officer at Meridian Health Systems. Do you have a moment to talk? My heart rate kicked up. Meridian was our largest client. Of course, Rebecca, what can I do for you? I received an interesting call from the FDA on Friday afternoon. They're conducting an audit of Castellano Industries and wanted to verify some details of our partnership agreement. Specifically, they wanted to confirm that you were still serving as the operational director overseeing our contract. I closed my eyes. Here it was. And what did you tell them? I told them I'd need to verify current personnel arrangements and get back to them. So I'm calling you directly, Dr. Chen. Are you still overseeing the production of our medications? The question hung in the air like a blade. I could lie. I could say yes and keep the house of cards standing a little longer. Or I could tell the truth and watch it all collapse. No, I said quietly. As of last Monday, I was reassigned to an archives and compliance advisory role. Cameron Castellano, the owner's nephew, is now the Chief Operating Officer with direct oversight of all production operations. Silence on the other end. Then, I see. And Cameron Castellano's qualifications? MBA from Wharton, no pharmaceutical experience, no FDA certifications, no prior operational oversight in regulated manufacturing. More silence. Dr. Chen, you understand that our contract specifically names you as the qualified oversight personnel. Your expertise was the primary factor in our due diligence approval. I'm aware. I reviewed the contract language this week. Strong. Then you also understand that this represents a material breach of our agreement. Strong. I do. Strong. Rebecca's voice softened slightly. Victoria, may I speak candidly? Off the record? Please. Strong. I've worked with you for 8 years. You've never missed a quality standard, never cut a corner, never given me a single reason to doubt the integrity of the medications we receive from Castellano. That's why we pay premium rates. That's why our board approved a long-term partnership. We trusted you specifically. I appreciate that, Rebecca. So, what I'm trying to understand is why you're no longer in that role. Did something happen? Because from where I'm sitting, replacing you with an unqualified family member looks like exactly the kind of organizational instability that triggers our risk management protocols. I took a deep breath. I was demoted, Rebecca. The owner decided his nephew needed a leadership opportunity, and my 18 years of experience were reframed as historical knowledge that could be better utilized in documentation. They demoted you. Her voice had gone flat, dangerous. The person our entire contract is built around. Yes. Without notifying us? Correct. And installed someone with no qualifications. That's accurate. I could hear typing in the background. Dr. Chen, I need to be very clear about something. Meridian Health Systems cannot, under our own regulatory requirements and board fiduciary duties, continue a partnership with a facility that has materially changed its operational structure in a way that increases risk to patient safety. We have 4,800 patients currently on medications produced at your facility. Their lives depend on the quality controls you established. I'm going to have to recommend to our board that we invoke the termination clause and begin immediate transition to an alternative supplier. That's a $40 million annual contract, Victoria. It's going to hurt Castellanos significantly. I know, but before I make that recommendation, I need to ask you something. Is there any way this situation could be corrected? Any possibility that you might return to operational oversight? I thought about Marcus's face when he told me I was being archived. I thought about Cameron checking his phone while explaining that my knowledge needed to be systematized. I thought about being asked to sign my name to certifications for processes I no longer controlled. Not under current ownership and management, I said. Then I'm sorry, Victoria. For what it's worth, this isn't your failure. This is theirs. You built something excellent, and they dismantled it out of arrogance and nepotism. Thank you, Rebecca. One more thing. When you land somewhere else, and you will because you're too good not to, call me. Meridian is looking at building our own in-house production facility for critical medications. We'd want someone who actually knows what they're doing to run it. My breath caught. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a conversation. But yes, potentially. We'd triple your current salary and give you full operational autonomy. No incompetent nephews, no being shoved in archives, just you, doing what you do best, with the resources and respect you deserve. I felt tears prick my eyes. I'd be very interested in that conversation. Good. I'll be in touch after we navigate this transition. In the meantime, Victoria, protect yourself. Document everything. I suspect things are going to get ugly over there. They already are. We hung up. I sat on my couch, staring at nothing, feeling something huge shifting in my chest. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was possibility. It was the realization that maybe, just maybe, there was life after Castellano. A better life. Monday morning, I arrived at work to find Marcus's car already in the parking lot. That was unusual. Marcus typically rolled in around 10, after his golf schedule permitted. I walked into the building and immediately sensed the tension. The receptionist, Dana, looked at me with wide eyes. Dr. Chen, they're looking for you. Conference room, now. I didn't rush. I stopped at my office, set down my bag, checked my reflection in the small mirror I kept in my desk drawer. I looked tired, but steady. I straightened my shoulders and walked to the conference room. Inside were Marcus, Cameron, Jennifer from legal, and two people I didn't recognize. A man and a woman, both in business attire, both wearing expressions of professional concern. Victoria, thank you for joining us, Marcus said tightly. His face was red, blotchy with stress. These are consultants from Sterling Crisis Management. We've brought them in to help us navigate a situation. What situation? I asked, sitting down. The woman from Sterling spoke up. Her name tag read, Patricia Moss, Senior Partner. Dr. Chen, we understand that you contacted the FDA and several major clients regarding personnel changes at this facility. Is that correct? I notified the FDA of a material change in responsible personnel, as required by regulation. I also answered questions truthfully when contacted by clients. Is there a problem? Patricia exchanged a glance with her colleague. The problem, Dr. Chen, is that your communications have triggered a cascade of issues. The FDA has accelerated their inspection timeline. Meridian Health Systems has invoked their termination clause. 2 other clients have requested emergency meetings. The State Pharmacy Board has opened an inquiry. In less than a week, you've effectively destabilized this company's entire client base. So, I reported factual information through proper channels, I said calmly. If that information is destabilizing, perhaps the issue is with the decisions that created the instability, not with my reporting of them. Patricia, Cameron leaned forward, his face twisted with anger. You sabotaged us. You deliberately went behind our backs to poison our relationships and trigger regulatory harassment. I followed the law. Cameron. When a responsible party is removed from operational oversight at an FDA-registered facility, that must be reported. When clients ask direct questions about operational structure, lying to them would constitute fraud. I did exactly what any competent professional would do. Buck snapped. You did this because you're bitter about being reassigned, Marcus snapped. You're trying to destroy what we've built out of petty revenge. I looked at him directly. Marcus, I built this. I spent 18 years building the reputation, the relationships, the quality systems that made this company valuable. You decided to remove me from the operations and install someone with zero qualifications. The consequences you're experiencing aren't sabotage. They're the natural result of your decision. And then Jennifer, the attorney, spoke up nervously. Doctor Chen, we're prepared to offer you a return to your previous operational role with a substantial raise if you'll contact the FDA and the clients to clarify that the transition was temporary and you're resuming full oversight. No, I said simply. Everyone stared at me. No? Marcus repeated. What do you mean, no? I mean I decline your offer. I don't want to return to a position where I can be arbitrarily demoted whenever it's convenient. I don't want to work under Cameron's authority. And I'm not going to lie to federal regulators or clients about who's actually running this facility. Patricia from Sterling Management cleared her throat. Dr. Chen, perhaps you don't understand the severity of the situation. If Meridian walks away and the FDA inspection finds significant issues, Castellano Industries could face closure. That's 230 jobs. That's patients who depend on these medications. That's an entire company built over 2 decades. And if people were depending on these medications, it starts with me. Over 18 years of sacrificed nights, weekends, holidays, and reputation. And when it no longer suited Marcus to have me in a leadership role, he threw me in a closet with filing cabinets and told me to be grateful for the opportunity to organize historical documents. So, this is revenge, Cameron said triumphantly. You're admitting it. And as conviction, no, Cameron, this is consequence. Revenge would be actively destroying something. I'm simply allowing reality to exist without killing myself to hold it together. There's a difference. Marcus stood up, his chair scraping harshly against the floor. After everything we've done for you, Victoria, we gave you a chance when you were nobody. We supported your doctorate program. We gave you opportunities. You paid me a salary to do work that generated millions in revenue, I corrected. That's not charity, Marcus. That's employment. And the moment you decided I was more useful as a filing clerk than as an operational director, you severed any loyalty you think I owed you. And strong pause, we can make you sign a non-disparagement agreement, Jennifer said suddenly. We can legally prevent you from communicating with clients or regulators. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I said, good luck with that, Jennifer. First, I haven't disparaged anyone. I've stated facts. Second, you can't legally prevent me from responding to direct inquiries from federal regulatory agencies. That's called obstruction. Third, I have 18 years of employment documentation, including emails where Marcus explicitly directed me to use my name and reputation to secure contracts. Any attempt to silence me now would look like retaliation, which would make every regulatory investigation 10 times worse. Patricia was writing notes rapidly. Dr. Chen, what would it take for you to cooperate with damage control? Name your price. I stood up. There is no price. I'm not interested in cleaning up this mess. I'm interested in protecting my professional reputation and my legal liability. Cameron is in charge now. Let him handle the FDA inspection. Let him explain to Meridian why they should trust someone with zero pharmaceutical experience. Let him demonstrate the leadership skills that supposedly made him qualified to replace me. You're willing to let patients suffer because of your ego? Cameron shouted. I turned on him and he actually flinched. Don't you dare. Don't you dare pretend you care about patients after you cut safety testing to save money. After you canceled preventive maintenance on critical equipment. After you eliminated third-party audits. You created this disaster, Cameron. You and your uncle. Every decision that led to this moment was yours. I looked at Marcus. You wanted Cameron to run operations? Congratulations. He's running them straight into the ground, and I'm not going to break my back trying to catch you anymore. I walked out of the conference room. Behind me, I could hear raised voices. Marcus shouting, Cameron yelling back, chaos erupting like a pressure vessel finally exploding. I went to the archives, gathered my personal belongings, and started packing them into boxes. I wasn't fired, not yet, but I knew it was coming. They'd find some excuse, some manufactured cause, and I'd be terminated. But that was fine. I had everything I needed. Every document, every contract, every piece of evidence of my work and their negligence. My phone buzzed. A text from Melissa in quality control. Dr. Chen, Cameron just ordered us to resume the reduced testing schedule regardless of regulatory requirements. He said we're overthinking compliance. What do I do? I typed back, document his order in writing. Request written authorization with his signature. If he refuses, document that too. Then follow the regulatory requirements anyway. If he retaliates, you have evidence of retaliation for refusing to violate federal law. Another text from Raymond in facilities. The autoclave in Building 2 is showing error codes. Cameron said to keep using it until it fully fails. This seems dangerous. Me. Take photos of the error codes. Email Cameron your safety concern in writing. If he orders you to continue use in writing, you have evidence. If he refuses to respond in writing, you know he knows it's wrong. I was turning my team into documentarians, teaching them to build their own paper fortresses, because I knew what was coming. In 3 weeks, the FDA would arrive. They'd find reduced testing, eliminated maintenance, canceled audits, unqualified leadership. They'd find a facility that was running on the fumes of the systems I'd built, while those systems were actively being dismantled. And they'd shut it down. Not because I sabotaged it, but because it actually deserved to be shut down. That evening, I met with Rebecca Sandoval from Meridian at a quiet restaurant across town. She brought her CEO, a stern woman named Kathleen, who got straight to business. Dr. Chen, we're accelerating our plans for an in-house production facility. We can't afford the instability of relying on outside vendors who make reckless personnel decisions. We need someone to build it from scratch, someone who understands both the science and the regulatory landscape. What's the timeline? I asked. 6 months to break ground, 18 months to full operation. We need a facility director who can design the workflows, hire the team, implement the quality systems, everything. Full autonomy, reporting directly to me. Your budget would be $50 million for construction and $8 million annually for operations. I tried not to react to those numbers. That was real money. That was the kind of budget that could build something extraordinary. And my compensation? Kathleen slid a folder across the table. Base salary of $280,000, performance bonuses up to 40%, full benefits, relocation assistance if needed, and equity in the subsidiary company we're creating. 5% ownership stake. I opened the folder. The offer letter was already drafted. All it needed was my signature. There's one condition, Kathleen said. We need you to start immediately as a consultant during the planning phase, while you finish whatever notice period Castellano requires. We'll pay you $10,000 monthly consulting fee on top of your eventual salary, starting now. You want to hire me while I'm still employed at Castellano? We want to secure your commitment before someone else does. You're a known quantity, Victoria. In this industry, that's worth a premium. I looked at the offer letter. My hands were shaking slightly. This was everything I'd wanted for 18 years. Respect, authority, resources, the ability to build something the right way, without corner-cutting owners and incompetent nephews. I need to give notice, I said. 2 weeks is standard. Give them whatever you need to give them, Rebecca said. But understand, Victoria, you don't owe them anything beyond basic professional courtesy. They demoted you. They disrespected your expertise. They're trying to use your reputation while denying you authority. You protected yourself, and now you're moving on. That's not betrayal. That's survival. I signed the offer letter. The next morning, I walked into Marcus's office and handed him a printed resignation letter. Effective 2 weeks from today, I'm resigning from Castellano Industries. I'll complete the transition of my current archival responsibilities and ensure all documentation is properly organized. Thank you for the opportunities over the past 18 years. Marcus read the letter, his face going through a progression of emotions: shock, anger, panic, and finally resignation. You're really doing this, Strong. I am. Where are you going? I've accepted a position elsewhere. I'm not at liberty to disclose the details yet. Strong. It's Meridian. Isn't it? His voice was bitter. You're going to work for them. You probably set this up, poisoned our relationship with them, just to create a job opportunity for yourself. Strong. Think whatever you need to think, Marcus. I'll be here for 2 more weeks to ensure a smooth transition. Strong. We don't need 2 weeks. You're clearly not invested in this company anymore. Consider yourself released immediately. I'll have HR process your final paycheck. I'd expected this. That's your choice. I'll return my access badge and collect my personal items from the archives. Jennifer will escort you. We can't have you taking company documents. I wouldn't dream of it, I said. All the company documents will remain exactly where they belong. In the archives, properly organized and indexed as requested. What I didn't mention was that I'd already made copies of everything relevant to my own work. My own contracts, my own certifications. Everything I needed to prove my role and protect myself legally. Jennifer walked me to the archives. I collected my photos, my personal books, my coffee mug. I left everything else untouched. As we walked to my car, I saw Cameron through the window of the production facility. He was yelling at someone, probably Melissa or Raymond, probably about something technical he didn't understand. He's going to destroy this place, Jennifer said quietly. I looked at her. I know. You can stay. You could fix this. No, I said, loading my box into my trunk. I can't, because the fundamental problem isn't technical. It's leadership. Marcus chose Cameron over competence. He chose family loyalty over patient safety. He chose ego over expertise. I can't fix that, Jennifer. Nobody can. What do we do? You document everything. You protect yourself. And when the FDA shuts this place down, you make sure you have evidence that you tried to maintain standards while being overruled by management. She looked scared. You really think they'll shut us down? Jennifer, Cameron canceled maintenance on sterilization equipment and reduced quality testing on cardiac medications. Within 3 months, something catastrophic is going to happen. A contamination event, an equipment failure, a batch that kills someone. And when it does, the FDA will investigate. They'll find systematic dismantling of safety protocols. They'll find unqualified leadership making reckless decisions. Yes, they'll shut you down. The only question is how many people get hurt first. I drove away from Castellano Industries for the last time. In my rearview mirror, the building grew smaller, less significant. I felt lighter than I had in years. The 2 weeks I should have worked passed slowly. I spent them in consultation with Meridian, designing the layout for their new facility, writing preliminary protocols, interviewing potential team members. I also monitored from a distance what was happening at Castellano. Melissa quit after Cameron threatened to fire her for insubordination when she refused to skip a contamination check. 3 other quality control specialists quit in solidarity. Raymond was terminated after he documented an autoclave failure and reported it to the state board. The FDA inspection happened on schedule. It took them 3 days, and from what I heard through my remaining contacts, it was brutal. Cameron couldn't answer basic questions about protocols. Equipment maintenance records had massive gaps. Quality testing showed multiple deviations that hadn't been investigated. The FDA issued a warning letter. That's the step before a consent decree, before forced shutdown. The letter demanded comprehensive remediation within 90 days or the facility would be prohibited from manufacturing. Meridian's transition was complete within a week. They moved their entire production contract to a facility in North Carolina, taking $40 million in annual revenue with them. 2 other major clients followed. The government contract was suspended pending resolution of the FDA warning letter. Within a month of my resignation, Castellano Industries had lost 60% of its revenue. I heard through the industry grapevine that Marcus was desperately trying to sell the company, but no one wanted to buy a facility under FDA warning with gutted quality systems and no qualified leadership. I felt no satisfaction in their collapse, only a kind of quiet vindication. I'd been right. They'd been wrong. Reality had proven which of us understood the industry better. 6 months after I left, I was standing in the lobby of the new Meridian bioproduction facility, watching my team conduct a final walkthrough before our official opening. Everything gleamed. Stainless steel, glass, white floors, and state-of-the-art equipment that hummed with precision. We'd passed every inspection on the first attempt. The FDA had sent complimentary notes about our protocol documentation. Our first client contracts were already signed. Rebecca found me standing there. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Like I finally built something that can't be taken away from me," I said. "Castellano filed for bankruptcy last week," she said quietly. "I thought you should know." I nodded. I'd heard. Marcus had lost everything. Cameron was reportedly working at his father's car dealership, selling SUVs to suburban families. "Do you feel guilty?" Rebecca asked. I thought about that. No, I feel like I dodged a bullet. If I'd stayed, if I'd kept sacrificing myself to hold that place together, I'd be going down with them. I'd be the one blamed for the FDA warnings, for the lost contracts, for everything. Instead, I'm here. I built this. And this time, my name isn't just on the compliance documents. It's on the door. I pointed to the plaque beside the entrance. Victoria Chen, Ph.D., Director of Operations, Meridian Bioproduction. "You earned it," Rebecca said. That night, I drove to my new house, the one Meridian's relocation package had helped me buy. It was small, but mine, with a garden I actually had time to tend and a porch where I could sit and watch the sunset. My phone buzzed, an email from an address I didn't recognize at first, then realized it was from Jennifer, Marcus's former attorney. "Dr. Chen, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted you to know that I've accepted a position with a medical device company where my legal expertise will actually be valued. Thank you for the advice about documentation. When Marcus tried to make me the scapegoat for the FDA warning, I had everything I needed to prove the decisions weren't mine. I thought of you when I handed him my resignation letter. I learned from the best. You've gratitude, Jennifer." I smiled and poured myself a glass of wine. Good wine this time, not the cheap stuff. My phone rang. Marcus. I stared at the name on the screen for a long moment, then declined the call. He called again. I declined again. Then a voicemail appeared. Against my better judgment, I listened. Victoria. His voice was hoarse, broken. "I know I don't deserve your time. I know I destroyed what we built, but I need help. The bankruptcy attorney says I personally guaranteed loans that I don't remember signing for. The FDA is threatening criminal charges for fraudulent certifications that were filed after you left. Cameron forged your signature on some documents, Victoria. He forged your name, and now they think you might be complicit. I need you to testify that you had nothing to do with operations after you resigned. Please, I'm begging you." The message ended. I sat very still. Cameron had forged my signature. That meant he'd created fraudulent documents using my credentials. probably to try to satisfy some regulatory requirement he couldn't meet legitimately. That was a federal crime, and if I wasn't careful, I could be implicated. I called my attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia, who'd handled my employment contract with Meridian. I need you to contact the SDA and the federal prosecutor handling the Castellano case. I need to proactively provide evidence that I resigned 6 months ago and had no involvement in any subsequent certifications or filings. I have my resignation letter, my final paycheck, everything. I'll handle it, Patricia said. And Victoria, don't respond to Marcus. Don't take his calls. Don't let him pull you into his mess. I won't. I blocked Marcus's number. I blocked Cameron's number. I blocked every connection to that old life. The federal investigation took months. I gave a deposition, provided my documentation, proved beyond doubt that I'd resigned and had no involvement in anything that happened after. Cameron was eventually charged with fraud and falsifying federal documents. Marcus faced civil penalties for negligence and misrepresentation. I wasn't charged with anything. My paper trail, my meticulous documentation, my resignation letter, everything protected me completely. The facility was permanently shut down. The building was sold for parts. The equipment auctioned off. It was over. Standing in my garden one evening, watching the sun set behind the trees, I thought about the journey. 18 years of building something, watching it be taken away, and then building something better from the ashes. I thought about the woman I'd been at 24, eager and naive, believing that hard work and loyalty were enough. I thought about the woman I'd become at 42, standing in a storage closet, realizing that my name was all over the structural foundation of someone else's empire. And I thought about the woman I was now, at 43, director of my own facility, respected, compensated fairly, and finally free. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. First production batch cleared all quality checks. Perfect scores across the board. You built something amazing, Victoria. I smiled and typed back. We built something amazing. And this time, it's built to last. I poured myself a glass of wine and raised it to the sunset, to the long road behind me, to the future ahead. To every woman who's ever been told her knowledge was just historical. To every expert who's been demoted in favor of someone's unqualified relative. To everyone who's been asked to sign their name to someone else's incompetence. You are not the archives. You are not the backup plan. You are not the person who exists to make others look good. You are the foundation, and when they remove you, they collapse. Let them, and build something better. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. Because we're not done yet. There are more stories to tell, more truths to speak, more women who need to know they're not alone in their fight for recognition and respect. This is just the beginning, and I promise you, the best is yet to come.